Hey guys, welcome to my first video and hopefully a longer tutorial series on data assets inside of Unreal Engine. Probably one of the most effective tools in the entirety of Unreal Engine. Hopefully this entire tutorial series will kind of run you down on some of the possibilities with data assets and how it can pretty much be used throughout your entire gameplay development, whether that be from things like assigning meshes to specific things, creating world items, creating inventory items, creating dialogue systems, creating configs. Data assets are a really, really powerful tool inside of Unreal Engine, and I don't think they get as much credence or in usage as they could. And a lot of people do rely on things like data tables or whatever to do data lookup. So today we're just going to kind of do some basic, we're going to do a basic data asset setup and how we might be able to use it, say, in something like inventory. So we'll look at making a data asset item master, and then we'll make like maybe some children of it, or maybe just like one child of it, and then show how we can expose those new variables. One thing to note, I do believe it's here in the project settings, we do have to do types of scan. So primary asset types to scan, you'll want to make sure that we add the primary data assets. So give me seconds. It'll be under, so that's index 1, index 0. We just drop this down, drop this guy down. I'm just going to call this primary data assets. And down in this, we can look for the primary data asset. So, hold on. Let me also go in there real quick. Double check. Classes. Only. We don't need the rest of this. Okay. So now let's go ahead and just kind of get into this a little bit. So I've kind of got a blank project here, just called More Zombies. This is when I was trying to mess around with Niagara system, and spawning in like thousands of enemies using Niagara particles instead of a traditional method. But anyways, that doesn't matter. We can use some of the stuff that's here. And we're gonna do this all in Blueprint today. I will show later on, maybe further down the line, more advanced like CPP using header files, and then maybe CPP to use some interface functions and stuff like that. So it can be utilized both in BP and C++. Plus, it's very beneficial to make most of it in C++, especially with just if you only have something like a config file and you only have to make lists, you don't even need the C++ file, you only really need the header. And we can go over those concepts later on. But for now, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just create a new folder. And we're just going to call this data assets. So inside here, we're going to create a new blueprint class. We're going to look up all classes and we're going to look for that primary data asset. So this is the main type that we require, and it always has to be a primary data asset. In order to create a data asset, we need to have officially had this as a parent. All right, so I'm going to name this as PDA underscore item master. We will do like a small little like just showing you how this might effectively work as an inventory item. And then we can also go ahead and we're going to just create one thing. We're going to create, let's just say a resources folder, right? And then inside the resources folder, we'll create our resources master. So inside the PDA item master, some things that we can do. All right. So first thing we could do, we can go ahead and we can add what our item name is. So let's go item name because every item in a game or whatever would have a name. Let's go ahead and add a item description. We're gonna do basic things here. I don't want to go too crazy. Let's add a static mesh, and instead of doing this as a solid reference, we're gonna go ahead and do this as a soft object reference right now. We're just gonna call this world mesh. And what else can we do? I mean, we could do a ton of things, right? So we could do like how much this item weighs as a float, anything that you really wanted to. I think this particularly gets most of the information across. So we're just going to say our our item master is item name, item description, and world mesh, right? So now down in here, I need to create what is a resource master. So the reason why data assets are really cool inside of Unreal Engine, if I use an item master and then I use this as the parent for all different things, so say resource, weapon, consumable, buildable, whatever it is that you need to create that's an item in that game, they can all inherit as this as the parent class and then create their own classes and then create data assets based off of those classes. So for example, if I were to create a data asset at the current moment, so if I go here, miscellaneous data asset, and I look up the PDA item master, you'll see that PDA item master is here. But the problem is this is a generic item master, so there's not really anything that's a subset. So if this was like a resource like wood, and I needed to be able to tell, hey, does this burn, and how long does it burn, or what's its burn value? We want to be able to do that here. You wouldn't want to expose that to pretty much all of your items that are in your game. So inside the resources, we can go ahead and we are going to create a new blueprint class. Actually, we could do it that way, or we could just right click on this guy and create child blueprint class. And we'll call this PDA underscore. Let's just call this one resource master. And I will show you just in a second here. So you'll notice that it doesn't have any of that stuff there. But if you look off to the right in our main default things, we do have all this. And we could also, if we really wanted to, like we could put this as its own category. So we could say that this is part of master category, right? So let's just say item master info, right? So if we did this, we drag this all in here. Now you'll notice over on this right side, it's going to be under the item master info. Although I guess I didn't move the item name. That's quite weird. Quite strange. There we go. Now it's under the item master info, and then you would have like one specifically for the resource master. And if you know you had another child of this or branched on, you could do that so on and so forth all the way down, right? So the really cool thing that's going to help here and is going to help us like get a good understanding with how this system could be really effective and expandable. Normally someone would use like a data table, and they want to use a data table because they want to get the row and column, well, get the specific column, get out of a row, and they want to get very specific item information from it. This separates the item information, but it also doesn't have the same problem with data tables where everything is loading. So if you have thousands of items, I know it might be more painful or whatever to go to each data asset and change it, but in the long run, it's going to be more efficient because ultimately it's not going to be bogged down by, let's just say, if we have 10,000 items and I have to load item 9,999, right? I have to load all 9,988 or 98 items before that, and they're all loaded. Even if they're only like 1 kilobyte, it's still pretty intensive. Like even if you're doing soft references and stuff, once you get to a really big number, it becomes messy. So likewise, we've created now this child of what is the parent, the item master. So we can go ahead and just move this guy in here. And we're going to give ourselves 2 extra variables. We're going to say, is this object burnable? So is burnable. Because we're in BP, we can use the question mark. And then we can also do its burn value. Actually, I'm not gonna teach you guys this way. We're gonna change this because this would put it as null if this was C# or something else. So we'll do B is burnable. B just stands for bool. And if you ever actually drag this out, it'll get rid of that B. Okay, so let's go ahead and likewise we have this B is burnable and its burn value. So now if I go ahead and I create an item, so we're going to create our first item. So we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call this normally a data asset. And normally I would call like this folder or whatever it would be like primary data asset or primary data assets, right? So resources And then, oh, where did the other one go? Oh, I didn't make anything of it. So new folder, let's call it data assets. Right, so if we go in here, we right click, we're going to go ahead and create miscellaneous data assets. And if we look up that PDA, and so now we see we have both item master and resource master. In this case, we want a new resource. So we're going to select resource master. And we could just rename this guy DA, DA underscore rock. Okay. So you'll notice now that we have this item master info, and I didn't do this here. So let's just real quick. What did I call it? Item master info. So resource master info. Resource master info. All right. Move both of those in there. It's super weird. I don't know why this bug exists, but it does. It's a very weird bug. But yeah, now you'll see that this one comes from the resource master. This one comes from the item master. Now, we'll go over what some problems here are when I go to try to access the information about rock, and I'll show you the main problems that happen with it. So right now we can name this. Obviously, we know it's rock. Item description: a small hard piece of earth. Woohoo! And we're just going to use a sphere. I know it's real original of me. And then obviously it's not burnable. It doesn't have burn value. That's fine. And then we're going to go ahead and we're also going to create another one just so you can tell everything that's happening here. And we're going to do the same, PDA resource master. And we're going to do data asset underscore stick. Sticks and stones. This is burnable. We'll make it a value of 1. This is now stick. A limb from a tree. And then we can do a cylinder. Right? Not exactly the most creative things, but now we have a rock, a sphere, and a stick that is a cylinder. So now, how do we use this information so it's relatable to our entire game? So normally you would have like maybe you have something like you have what would be the word for it? Inventory component or something that's on your character, and you're like, okay, I need to be able to utilize this thing. Nope, not wrong thing. I want to get rid of the gun. I need to be able to utilize this data asset or whatever to do information or to say, hey, that's so weird. I never even noticed this class ever before. What? I am so confused by this. Whoa. But I need to be able to utilize this information, stuff like that. So what we can do is inside the, I think it's a BP first person character. Let me double check. Yeah, this is their, what? This is their logic. I don't know why this is even popping up. I don't require any of this. Okay. Likewise, inside of their BP first person character, I'm not sure what's going on. Why any of this is here. Maybe this is Unreal Engine 5.4 thing. Likewise, this should work in just about pretty much any Unreal Engine version. You don't have to worry about it. So, so we're going to use debug key, and what we're going to do is we're going ahead and create that initial. Let's just call this item to check. Right. So we could pretend this was an item that came out of our inventory. Maybe we're dropping it, we're picking it up, we're accessing what its defaults are, whatever it is. And we can create this as a PDA. Oh, got some weird artifact going on there. Why is that showing up? PDA. Yeah, it's just being weird. Item master. I don't know why it's not showing the top. Don't ask me. Unreal 4 is quite finicky. I like to be in Unreal 5.3.2, but this is the cleanest project I had. So you'll notice over on the side now, we have a empty data asset reference. And if we look in here, we can find both data asset rock and data asset stick. Even though these are only children of data asset resource master, they're still accessible as the master because they're still children ultimately of the master as well. And this is how you do when it's set up. Right, so they have to kind of go up the tree and inherit from the main master. So there's a lot of like parent, child, child, child. And it does get better when you have like C++ and using interfaces in C++. We'll use an interface here in a second in BP, and I'll show you how to set that up. But for right now, let's go ahead and do DA rock. Right. And what we can do is, for now, I just want to check and make sure that DA rock is in fact a rock. So what we can do first is we can check if this thing is valid. So on keep_st, is this item valid? And if it is valid, we can go ahead and we can get the name. I don't know what is going on with that. Such a weird bug. We can get the name, and we'll go ahead and print text. Boop. Just like that, we print the text. Now, if I go ahead and I come in here, we should see rock. And indeed, we see rock. So it is a valid reference. We are able to get the item name, which refers to the item master's item name. And we can get the item master or the item description, whatever it is that we needed from this particular thing that we could be able to get. Where did that go? Oh, I did in the BP first. BP controller. That's fine. So yeah, we can get the item name. It doesn't matter where it is at this point. We're able to get the item name. The problem we have now, so say this item is a resource, and we don't know. There's ways that we could do the compare. So something that we could put in here, like right at the beginning, is maybe we do like an enumeration. It's probably one of the easiest setups. So we do like enums, and then we come in here and we do blueprints, enumeration, e_item type. This is one way that we can do this particular thing, whatever, and then we can add their enumerator, and we do like, resource, armor, let's just say consumable. You just, go through, just a ton of them. There's another thing that we could do here that would also add that might be a little bit more efficient than just simply using just an enum. So the problem with this, right? So what I can do is I can go ahead and add this as a part of the item master or whatever. We do item type on the enum. We just say, item type. And then, inside now all of these, they will have an item type. We can say, that's resources default. We set armor, consumable, whatever it is. These are obviously resources, so they point towards a resource. So what we could do is we can go ahead and get item type. And now what we could do is we could do a switch. I don't know what's going on with this artifacting. I'm just going to really have to avoid 5.4 for a while. Still don't understand it. So if we did a switch on the type, depending on what type this returns, we could do a call. So maybe we do this one, and the traditional way of doing it, we know it's a resource now. What we could do is we can go ahead and cast to PDA resource master, blah, 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 blah. You could do another cast, resource master, cast to armor master, cast to consumable master. Check if it succeeds. If it succeeds, it'll give you the items that are in here. We could do like is burnable because now we have the actual reference that is the PDA resource master. This is a terrible way to do it though. So instead of casting, because casting just generally kind of like ties things together really hard, say the names get changed up or the class gets completely changed up, you have something to change, you now have like a very hard reference to it. And I don't like to do casting simply because of that. Casting does have other issues where it's like it keeps the thing that's casted reference in memory all the time, which may not be too terrible depending on how many things you have. But the worst part is definitely the coupling. It's a common practice in functions, or not functions, in coding. And coupling is very dangerous because if you do have to make a change to that class or completely rewrite the class, or the class gets assigned to something different, because you've coupled it, you now have to redo or re-implement that class, or fix up a lot of the stuff. So instead, what we can do is use interfaces, which is another really, really powerful tool. So we can go in here, and what we'll do is inside blueprints, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to create a, normally I would section this off to like a folder, but we're not going to do that in this case. So we go to the blueprint interface and we do BPI underscore, and I always call this just like primary data assets. And all my data assets in the game get the same interface, just because it's fairly easy to follow. So what we can do is, for each item that we have, we can do get resource master. And just to show you, there's multiple things going on. We can do, not that we'd ever need this, but we can get item master. Typically, every item should be already an item master, but I'm just going to put it there just as a general thing. So the output will be of type PDA item master. And then obviously you can also do these as soft references. I'm not going to do that. Item master ref. And with soft references, you have to think of it as kind of like this points towards where the location of the object is to load. It doesn't load the object. So it's kind of like you can turn a soft, it's kind of what's going on. You can turn a soft object reference into a string to get the path name. So that's also a really cool concept. If you only wanted to pass around string information, you can. So for this one, we're going to obviously, that's output. Yep. This one we want to output the resource master. So we can look up that PDA resource master. And we'll do this one as an object reference as well. Likewise, we can do it as a soft resource master ref. Okay, now that we have the item master ref and resource master ref, here's a really cool thing about the way that we set up the system. If I go into the item master, I can go into the class settings. I can go to implement interface, and I look up that BPI primary data assets. And it's there, and it's loaded. Now, traditionally, most people would be like, okay, now I've got to add this guy into the resource master. It's not the case. So if this one ever inherits this, right, so we just need to return a instance of self, right? So it just returns self, and all we're looking for is the information that is pertained in this particular item, right? So if it's a resource master, what we can do is we can right click on this guy and either double click on it or right click on it. And you'll notice that even though this guy is the only one that has the interface in its implemented interfaces, this one also gets the interface. And the reason being is because it is now an inherited interface. And the nice thing with an inherited interface, it sees these classes, but we're not going to do anything with it until we override them. And that's basically what's going to happen here. We override what is the parent class's function, which the parent class says, hey, there's nothing here, right? And now, because it's this, we're overriding it with the resource. So only if an item is a resource will it return this resource master, right? So let me go ahead and return self. Okay. And I just want to show you real quick what happens if we do something that is marked as a resource and it is not. Let's go in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to have some confusion that happens with us for whatever reason. Resource data assets, and we're going to create a new data asset that only inherits from that first data asset, the primary one. So PDA, and it's only going to inherit from the item master. This is going to be DA underscore fake resource, right? And in here, this will be total fake. Right. definitely not a real thing. Okay, and we're gonna give it a count because it's sharp like that. It's just sharp. So it's pretending to be a resource, and this is going to throw off like information or whatever, and um, and I just show you, because it doesn't inherit from resource. It never is actually a resource, and the game can tell you that. So now that we get the item type or whatever, we're gonna go ahead and what we'll do is we can go on this guy and we can go, okay, get item or resource. I think it's resource master. Get resource master, and we have this get resource master message. Right? So if we click this guy, and if we're a resource, we go here, and we're going to go ahead and check if this guy is valid. Such a weird graphical bug. And then we're going to do ahead and see is burnable, because then we know if it's returning the is burnable, like obviously if it's valid, it's good, but if it's also turning is burnable, it's also pretty good. So we know whether it's a burnable or not. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch between this and actually let's also print out. You know what? Let's just do a couple things. Let's go ahead and do an append here. So let's do whether it's burnable, it's item name, and obviously you could be more organized about these. Do its name, right? And then what we'll do is we'll do a flip flop off this guy so we can see different things happening, right? Flip flop. Oh, the good old flip flop. We're going to go ahead and assign a check. This one will be the rock. This one will be the stick. Okay. So now if we go ahead and load, we'll notice that we have false and it's a rock. But if we go again, it's true and it's a stick. So it's true this item can be burned. Now, if we go ahead and get that fake item, so let's just train this one as the stick. I could probably append this to be a little bit better, if I'm being honest. A lot better, honestly. Let's just append this real quick. Is burnable. And then we'll leave like a blank space there. Actually, we'll do a little space so it doesn't look horrible. Item name. Right. Okay, so now we're going to do that fake resource. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and print another string. And we're going to say not a valid resource. Right. So if I go ahead and hit this, what I can do is if I hit it first time, is burnable is true, and the item name is stick. If we go ahead and again, it is not a valid resource. So even though this is marked as a resource, it's not a valid resource. And if you guys really realize what just happened here, now we have the ability to get what is the resource master's items using the data asset instead of having to hardcast. So that's going to be for the first episode. Likewise, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave it down in the comments. If you guys do like all the content, please like, subscribe, and yeah, likewise, just leave comments on what you want to see next. I got a couple more things that I plan out doing, but it's not necessarily everything that can be covered. Primary data assets and data assets in Unreal Engine are pretty extensive, so just let me know what you guys think. All right, thanks. See you next time. Peace.